The next one is for running multiple experiments, targeting different user groups with the same feature. Like I wrote here, one for first-time users and one for existing users, for example. If we, in the UI, try to copy it, it doesn't allow you to do that. It says there's already an experiment with this key, which indicates that maybe it's not intended to work that way. So what would be the recommendation?
Yeah, if you're going to do two separate tests, it's usually best to try to differentiate based on the key. And for more than anything, that's just for data cleanliness. The reason why I say that is when you create an experiment in Amplitude, we also create additional metadata in the form of user properties to be able to see who is assigned to what test and what aspect of that test, control versus treatment. So if you differentiate the key values, then your user data that you collect as a result of that test running is just going to be much more clear. If it's going to be a separate test, differentiate by the key, maybe just as like an additional slug at the end of the naming convention, if that makes sense, of like FTU versus existing or something like that. The only case where I would say keep it as the same test is if you would envision rolling out the same change regardless of the type of user that you're testing this out for. So to give you an example, let's say you didn't run separate tests. Let's say you ran the same tests across all of these users and that you're interested in just segmenting the results at the end of the test once it's complete. Would that prompt you to say, like, hey, like maybe actually this should be a different experience for these two user groups, and we might want to actually roll out different experiences based on their profile of like first-time user versus existing? If the answer to that is yes, then it might make more sense to run separate tests just to keep the data a little bit more segregated, especially if you anticipate that it might result in a different rolled out experience, or if that's something that you're used to doing in other areas of your product or in the past. But if it's just kind of saying, it's probably going to end up being the same change no matter what, I just think the differences in those user groups might be interesting to do analysis on, then you probably don't have to separate them out. But the safer choice, if you can afford the traffic split, would be to do separate tests.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Tyler.